Hi, everybody. Welcome. We'll get started in just a couple minutes. Hi. Feel free to let me know where you're joining from today. I'd love to hear it, see where we always get a lot of the South, I feel like. Atlanta, Georgia is always in the house anytime I do a webinar. So let me know where you guys are from. California, or is that Canada? I don't know. See, I've never heard of that town. Cali. Okay, nice. God, I wish I was in California right now. Colorado. Oh, West Coast. One day, I'm going to travel out there. It's beautiful. Welcome, Kristen and Latricia. Happy to have you guys. I live East Coast, like mountains of Pennsylvania, so it's already cold. I want that sunshine. Hi, Martine. Am I saying that correctly? Hi. Awesome. Hi. Hey, Herb. This is not your first time on a webinar. Welcome from Charlotte. Charlotte, I've been and I love. Absolutely beautiful there. Herb, did we ever end up having a demo together? I know we were booked for a demo, but I don't know if it ever happened. Yeah, we did. Okay, I thought so. I recognize your name. Welcome, guys. We're going to get started. We're just going to give it one more minute to let some stragglers kind of trickle in, and then we'll get started, okay? Alrighty. So as I'm going through this, if you guys have any questions that pop up, just enter them in the Q&A rather than the chat box. I'll go back and forth and check just in case, but just enter them in the Q&A so they're all in one spot, and then we'll go over those at the end. So let me hide my face away here. Alrighty, so today's webinar, we're going to be going over creating ceiling designs in Foyer Neo. There's about 12,000 different ways you can do this, so I'm going to try and get to all of them today. That's me. Do be sure to follow us on Instagram. That's where like all the real fun stuff happens, for just daily inspiration. And also we want to get feedback from you guys on future webinars. So if there's something that you really want to see, be sure to let us know there, okay? And the takeaways from today's webinar are going to be, first, how ceiling design starts in 2D mode, how we manipulate our ceiling height to accommodate for that, something especially like the cathedral ceiling. So I'll show you guys that. When it might be appropriate to use invisible material on your ceiling. Next, we have new skylight options in the catalog that are such an upgrade from the process of creating skylights before. So I want to show you guys that. Then we're going to go into custom ceiling designs using Create New Product and geometrics for things like simple slanted ceilings. And I'll show you how to apply lighting for something like a nice tray ceiling or even a curved ceiling like that. Okay. And again, any questions, just add them to the Q&A at the end. So we're going to jump right into it. The first thing that I'm going to show you is here in 2D mode. Let's say the first thing that we're going to do. So let me pull up this picture here. You see this cathedral ceiling. When we drop this in, how the software works is that any ceiling design that we pull from the catalog is going to attach to the top of the ceiling and drop down. It's not going to sit on top of the ceiling like a roof. So what that means is that in 2D mode, we need to accommodate for the height of that, in this case, cathedral ceiling, but really the height or the thickness of any ceiling design in our wall height, which we set in 2D mode. So let's say that this, from floor to the bottom of this cathedral ceiling is 10 feet. And then from the bottom of the cathedral to the to the peak is 6 feet, right? So you need to know the measurement from here to here, and then the measurement from the floor all the way to the top. And you're going to add those two together. So in this case, it would be 16 feet. We're going to select this wall here. That's going to bring up our wall property window. And the very first option is to set your wall height. So while it's in full wall, you'll see that the changes will apply to the complete floor plan. So even though I've only selected this wall, every wall on this grid right now will increase to 16 feet, which I've already done here, but you can just enter that in whatever number that needs to be. Next, you can go into your catalog and you can go to building and search for ceiling designs here. You can narrow your search up top if you want to. Save any items that you might want to use to your short list, or you can just add them directly to the project. And I'm going to show you how you can apply this in 2D mode. So you can do it in 2D or in 3D, it doesn't matter. Right now we're in floor plan mode, right? So we're looking at all of our floor docked items and our wall docked items. If I go to this drop down here and navigate to ceiling plan mode, you'll see that those items disappear. And then actually, if I select here, I have this cathedral ceiling. So what you do here is it's a simple drag and drop over top and then a resize. I like to do this in 2D mode because it's really easy to kind of fit it nice and like snug up against the wall. But again, you can do this in 3D as well. Okay, and while we're in ceiling plan mode, we can literally apply anything that docks to the ceiling. So this can be lighting, this could be a ceiling design, doesn't matter. If we navigate back to floor plan mode, we're no longer looking at the cathedral ceiling, and now we're looking at our floor. It's just a matter of what the software is giving us an aerial perspective of. Okay, so let's go into 3D real quick. I'll show you what this looks like. It's just going to take a second to load. So you'll notice that in the catalog, this was all white, but I was able to apply a wood texture from the catalog to these beams to create some definition there. Here we are. And you'll notice this is what I'm talking about. It's docking from the top of the peak, and then it's dropping down into the space, which is why we needed to have those tall walls. Even though we have these little cat ears here in 3D mode, when we take a render inside the space, it does not show. We just want to make sure that when we resize, and we can check this in 3D mode, that the edges are all really tucked into place flush against these walls so that there's no gaps. Okay. So that's how you do something like a cathedral ceiling. Set your wall height in 2D mode and then drag and drop either in 2D from ceiling plan mode, or you can do it here in 3D and resize and then apply textures as needed. This light fixture, when I first dragged it in, all chandeliers are going to want to dock to the ceiling. So I simply put it into free movement once it docked to the ceiling and then brought it on down so that I could attach it to this beam rather than to the ceiling above. Okay. Speaking of ceiling designs, or rather, I believe it's under skylights. On occasion, I've seen people bring their roof or whatever it may be and have it sit on top of their floor plan here. So let's just use this guy as an example real quick. This would not, I would say this would not be appropriate for anything that's a peak, because the ends of those peaks are going to expose the outside environment. So let me grab this guy and show you what I mean. If I were to pull this up and sit it all the way on top, and maybe I say, okay, I'm just going to have my walls be 10 feet, and then I'm going to sit this on top and apply invisible material to the roof here, or to the ceiling here, which I'll show you how to do that in a second. The problem with that is that then all of this on either end is exposed. So you would have to go into the catalog, find a triangle and resize it to fit in here to cover that up. So in this particular case, this is where you definitely want to just have it drop in and you don't want to have it sitting on top. However, in the catalog, we do have some options like this. So let's say you're doing like an outdoor almost like a greenhouse situation where you have a bunch of windows lined here. These options, let me drag and drop one. Let me just get into the space here. I'll show you guys the skylight in a second. So let's use this one. It's going to dock to the ceiling. It's going to drop down. And now this is a good time to grab your invisible material from your texture catalog. This guy right here. Drag and drop it. And then resize this over top. So it depends. We're just going to ignore this skylight over here for a second. Pretend that's not there. Because this fits nice and snug over top of these walls and doesn't leave any of those weird gaps that the cathedral ceiling left, this would be a time where you could absolutely just keep your wall height, whatever that wall height is, and then just sit this right on top and use invisible material to see through it so that it looks like just one continuous open air space. Okay, and I just put that, again, I just put it into free movement to lift it up. Okay, let's delete this. I'm going to just apply a color to this wall. And let's talk about the other skylight options. So that was in when I searched for skylights. Previously, what we would have to do is we had some skylight options that looked like this, let's say. And I'm going to show you how to work around this in a second. It would dock to the ceiling, but it wouldn't see through the ceiling. So we would have to make this invisible and then use create new product, which we can still do with this. But that was becoming problematic for designers, particularly in the UK, I found, who had a lot of slanted ceilings like this that had skylights worked into them. And it was a process. So the product team very smartly came up with skylight options that have the blue sky and clouds as a texture that's applied to the window pane to give the appearance of the outside. So what I've done here is I've used geometrics to create a slanted ceiling. And this is just a triangle. So if I go into my catalog and I search triangle, again, this is a part of the larger category called geometrics, which is just a number of different shapes that you can resize and apply textures to. I would get the right triangle, which is here somewhere, drag and drop it into the space, resize it. Here it is. I used this one. It docks right to the ceiling. And then I just resized it across. Then I grabbed my skylight, put it into free movement. And then once you put something into free movement, if then you click on rotate, you can rotate in any direction as well. So then I just rotated it so that it was flush up against here and put it into place. So now it's giving the appearance of seeing through this rectangle or triangle, even though it's not. I'm not sure that the words I just said made total sense. So let me know if they didn't, but that's how you would do that. So we're giving the appearance of this. And one thing that's also nice is that you can copy texture material this sky and clouds now. So if you wanted to just apply this and apply it to the ceiling, you could to this older skylight like that. So copy texture material, go and pick up the texture that you want, and then click on the thing that you want it to be applied to. If you want the actual sun in render mode coming in through here, let me just delete this to get it out of the way. What you would do is use create new product. So we're going to drag and drop invisible material to the ceiling so that the skylight sees through. Then we're going to go into create new product. And this is really simple. We're going to grab our rectangle tool and we're just going to trace over the entire ceiling. I'm going to start in my corner There we go. It's going to snap me into these edges and into the corner for me, which is helpful. I'm going to look at it from the side like this, and I'm going to use push-pull just to give it a little bit of depth. And I'll explain to you why in a second. So even just 1 inch is fine. The reason for that is because once I give this rectangle some depth, it becomes a 3D object and it creates these edges. Let me just exaggerate this for a second. Creates these edges that now I can push, pull, and manipulate in each individually. So that's going to be important because now the next thing that I'm going to do is trace around this skylight. So I can use the rectangle tool or I can use the pen tool. The pen tool is going to draw singular straight lines, and the rectangle tool is going to draw a rectangle or a square in this case. So I'm just going to click, move this out, click again. And now I've defined that space because I need to make a cavity so that the skylight can see through, right? So again, we're going to go right back to push pull. You'll notice that now because I've defined this, this is a separate plane that I can manipulate, and I'm going to push it up and push it away. So now I've made my default ceiling invisible, and now I've created like a faux ceiling that sits down on top of it, created the cavity for the skylight. I still have this sky texture that we applied, but you could keep this totally clear and it would see out and take in sun for the render. Okay. So that's an option there. When we click done, we're right back in 3D mode, and now you can apply, your ceiling paint color here. Okay. One last note about skylights is that they're not all, so the 3 that I showed you earlier, these guys were just the windows. Some of these also include wall, which makes it almost easier, I think. So if you have a smaller space, you could work this straight up. It's already at a nice angle for you, but you can, of course, once it's in free movement, click on rotate and rotate it into place as needed. And then you can even just clone these and put them side by side. And again, it's got that nice texture applied to it so that you don't run into those issues. So we used to have to make the wall itself invisible and then create like a faux wall underneath the slant. For any of you who've had to do this in the past, you know what I'm talking about. It was really tedious. This is a nice workaround. Okay, let me know if you guys have any questions about that. In the meantime, let's go on to tray ceilings. So here in this room, I'm going to show you how I created this tray ceiling here, which I took a quick render just so you can see. We have tray ceilings in the catalog. A lot of them are more ornate. So if you wanted something a bit more modern, you could create it and create new product. And I'll show you how to use a tool called Follow Me. Some of you guys, if you were on the Create New Product webinar a week or so ago, you are familiar with this maybe. If not, I'll show it to you today. But we're going to create this tray ceiling and create this little like lip or this little edge. And then I'll show you the lighting tool that I used to light that up. So this is what this looks like as a render. Okay. I'm going to delete this. You'll see I've got my light strips. I'm just going to keep those there for now, actually. And once again, I'm just going to double click here and we're going to head into Create New Product. So just like we did earlier, I'm going to start by just covering the entire space, the entire ceiling. Click and click again. And then once again, I'm going to give it some depth using push-pull. I'm going to bring this down. You can, of course, always set the dimensions specifically. So say this just needed to be 8 inches. You could enter that and click enter. Now what I need to do is create a border. So offset is the tool that creates borders always. Doesn't matter what shape you're working inside of. It could be an irregular shape. It will create an exact replica of that. You just click once and then pull your mouse out and click again. And because I've defined this, it's now 2 separate planes that I can manipulate with the push-pull tool, which I'm going to do now. So I'm going to grab push-pull again. And I'm just going to push this up ever so slightly. Okay, so here is where we start to use follow me. I'm just going to double click into this corner. And you know what? Let me delete these guys because they're in the way. Okay. So the next thing that you need to do to create this little lip where we're going to hide that light strip that you just saw, the first thing that we're going to do is define the shape of that by grabbing our rectangle tool. You'll notice that using create new product is just a repetition of the same tools over and over again. And I'm just going to draw a little rectangle here. Now I'm going to grab follow me. I'm going to click on that square. And then you'll notice it's going to give me some guidance. If I hover my cursor over here, that line is turning red. It's saying, hey, you can't follow me over here. But if I hover over here, I can follow over there. So I'm going to click there and you'll see that that's created a little lip. And then I'm just going to go around the entire border. And now I can do this switch. And there we go. So I'm going to click done. Clearly losing my voice today, I apologize. And I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's this nice little step that's been created using the follow me tool. We can also use follow me to create this type of ledge on like a curved ceiling design. So I'll show you guys that next. So now what we're going to do is apply some lighting. And I used this light strip here. So in the catalog, if you search for light strip, click enter, you're going to get all of these different options here. These guys that are kind of in this disc. It's a little confusing maybe because it looks like they're round, but they're not. So they're just straight and they come in white light, warm light, whatever you need. Drag and drop it. It's going to look just like this. And then you're going to bring it in and simply resize it along the length and tuck it into that little ledge that we've just created. Just going to zoom in here. And then I would just set it right in there. So now we'll get the benefit of the light that we saw earlier without actually seeing it. Okay. And then I would just clone that light strip, bring it over here, clone it again, rotate it, and tuck it into each of these corners or each of these edges. Alrighty. Next is a curved ceiling design and how we would use. So I created this little guy here. I just created this one and then I cloned it and did a horizontal flip. So I'll show you how to do that. But I used the follow me tool to create like a little ledge. And then I just dragged and dropped light texture material from the texture catalog. So in the texture catalog, we also have light. So in the regular catalog, you're going to get the strips, but those, we can't bend those, right? Here in the texture catalog, we can just apply light texture to edges, which is what I've done here. Using this low intensity warm light, we also have white light and we have tons of neon light. Okay. All righty, so let me show you how we did this. I'm going to delete this and back into create new product. Okay. So the first thing that I'm going to do is define the outer border using my rectangle tool. And then we're going to create that curve. So I'm just going to click and click. Once again, give it some depth. It becomes repetitive. Okay. And now, let me look at it from this direction. We're going to use 2-point arc. This is going to create a nice curve. Just going to find my midpoint here. Click. Drag out my mouse, click again. And then as I move my mouse up slightly, it creates that kind of like bulge. So I'm going to click again. And then I'm going to pick up where I left off. Click. And then once I hit the edge, click again. And just do it, move my mouse down so that I'm creating that in the opposite direction. And there we go. So now that we've defined these as two separate spaces, what we can do is slice away at the one using push-pull. Oh goodness, I just got lost. Hold on 1 second. There we are. So you can slice away at it entirely. Now we're going to create that ledge. So how I'm going to do this is the same basic process. I'm going to define what the size of that like indent needs to be using the rectangle tool. And I need to do it along this straight edge. So if I were to try and draw a rectangle, let me show you, along this curved edge, it wouldn't work. You see? So rotate it. We're looking at a nice straight triangle here, and that's where we're going to draw our edge. Click it into place. Now I'm going to click on follow me, select that rectangle, select this edge, which turns blue. And now I've told the software, okay, that's the curve that I want you to follow. And now I'm just going to click the escape key. And when I do that, it does it for me. Okay. So that's a little different from the tray ceiling. In the tray ceiling, we had to click on each edge and it followed me around. For the curve, you're just clicking on the edge right here, and then you're clicking the escape, and the software will take care of the rest. Now, when we click done, we're back in 3D. We can manipulate the products that we've created and create new product in the same exact way as we can anything else from the catalog. So we can resize this. We can clone it. And we can flip it by going to edit and doing, in this case, a horizontal flip. Or you could do a vertical flip, rather, side to side or front to back. So usually vertical should flip front to back, and then horizontal should flip side to side. So this is a really useful tool just in general if you have a door and the knob is on the wrong side, or if you have an open door and it needs to be opening into the room, but it's opening out, do a vertical flip, it'll open into the room. So now I've created kind of this cool little vase shape, and now I can drag and drop that texture to the inside here and apply any other textures to the different planes. There we go. I just realized this would be really cool to put on a floor, and then you know how they have sometimes floors where it's like overlooking water and they have like the epoxy over this area. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but that would be a really cool way to create that design on the floor. Okay, so we went over setting our ceiling height in 2D mode to accommodate for ceiling designs that are really going to drop down like a cathedral ceiling, when to use invisible material, like with that kind of greenhouse skylight roof where you can just set it right on top. Applying your ceiling designs in 2D mode under ceiling plan mode here, which now we can see all of those that we just created. How to apply the new skylights, how to use the old skylights by creating the invisible ceiling and then using create new product to just slice around it. Gosh, I think we've gone over everything. So I'll go into the Q&A and let me know what questions you have, okay? Okay, let's see. Mariette is asking, if we use this technique, can we still use the sun effects through the skylight? I mean, if we use the texture to make the skylight look like real, right? Okay, so with the slant, I'm assuming. Can you do the tray ceiling one again? Sure. Okay. Alrighty, so it will block out because we're not actually adhering it to a window. That skylight is not going to allow light in. We can compensate for that by adding artificial light. So let's try this out together. Let's make that like that. I'm going to go into the texture catalog or the catalog and find that triangle, and then we're going to replace this. Using the light textures from the texture catalog that I just showed you is always really useful. Kind of think of it as a photographer's tool, right? When a photographer is taking pictures of anything or anybody or an interior space, they always bring extra lighting tools with them. And that's essentially how we can use those light textures, which I'll show you in just 1 second. So let's reapply this. I'm interested to see how this renders if we were to apply, rather than the sky, if we were to replace it with a light. It might emit too much light, but let's give it a try. See what this guy looks like. You know what? Let's just do that. Let's just apply it to the, okay, it applies to all of them. Let's see how this renders real quick. We'll take a quick render preview. I don't know if it's going to be too harsh. The warm light might be a little too harsh. Maybe the low intensity white light would have been a better option. Or what you can do is just, sometimes what I'll do is say I'm, focused on taking a render on this wall here. I will apply a wall docked cube to this wall and then apply either the warm light or the white light to the cube, and then just resize the cube. And that provides additional light into the space so that it's not too dim. In the meantime, let's get a quick render preview here, and then I'll show you guys how to do that tray ceiling again. Gosh, such a tiny room that I chose to work in. Okay, let's do that. Alrighty, let's go back to 3D mode. I'll work on the tray ceiling while this generates, and then we'll answer any more questions. Okay. Let me know if that made sense about the wall docked cube with the lighting being applied to it as like just an additional, if you understand that, or if you want me to show you an example. Okay, so tray ceiling. I'm going to delete this, and we're going to go into create new product. And the first thing that we're going to use is the rectangle tool, and we're just going to draw our rectangle over the ceiling. We're going to use push pull to give it a little bit of depth. So again, this is an example where if you know that the tray ceiling is dropping down a certain amount, make sure that the ceiling height in 2D mode accommodates for that, so that it's not crowding the space in a way that's not actually realistic to what you would want. So we'll bring that down 8 inches for now. And then we're going to define the border of this, of where that tray is going to be. And borders are created using offset. So I'm going to simply click once, and I'm just going to move my mouse out. And I can click again to mark it. And then I'm going to use push pull to push this up just a tad. So now I've created that little ledge, and that little ledge there is where we're going to use the rectangle tool again to define where we want that lip to be. Okay, so I'm just going to double click here to zoom in. Grab my rectangle tool, and I'm just going to draw that out here. and zoom in. Okay. All right, so I've done that. Now I grab follow me. So that's a little intense, right? You see this render preview, so probably not the best option. So what I would recommend doing is gonna block the light, use some artificial light using that wall docked cube and see if that works for you. You could also try the white light here, but it would probably have the same effect. Okay, so back to this real quick. We're gonna select the rectangle and then we're gonna select the next edge. And we're gonna click all around. It's gonna highlight blue. If you cannot select it, it will highlight red. And that usually just means that you need to go to the other edge. Okay. And there we go. And now it's created that little shelf where I can tuck away. Here's a good view. My lighting, my light strips, so that they're not seen. Okay, let me know if that helped, seeing that again. Alrighty. Did that help, Latricia? Okay, awesome, great. Mariette, I'll reach out to the product team and see if they have any other recommendations. If you want to shoot me an email, I'll add my email here. If you guys have any questions going forward, but I'll reach out to them, see if they have any recommendations for how we can work around that. But I think it's really just going to be adding artificial lighting. So give that a try, see if it helps. And if I come up with anything new, just shoot me an email so that I have your email and I'll let you know. All righty, any other questions? I hope this is helpful a little bit. No problem, Letitia. Oh, good. Yeah, definitely give us a follow on Instagram. Say hi. Awesome, Martine. Yeah, shoot me that email. We'll be in touch, okay? Alrighty, I'll just give it one more minute in case anybody has any questions that they're coming up with. And then if there are no more, we'll send you guys on your way. And I hope you guys enjoy your weekend. Okay. Alrighty. Thanks, Tiana. Thanks for joining again. You're welcome. Alrighty, guys, that looks like it's it for this webinar. So have a great weekend and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.